Hey, welcome to week 4 of how to turn your snapshots into photographs. This workshop is going to be on how to control light in your camera, how your light meter works. And on the top is the information on the back of your camera that shows you what the camera is doing with the light that's coming into it. That's its built-in light meter. And the one below is a handheld light meter. So what these things do, they measure light. It tells you or gives you the information or sends information to the camera what settings are needed for a proper natural exposure. In the on-camera, we measures the light that's reflected off the subjects, and the handheld meter can measure light that in fact is coming to the subject. So here's that demonstrated. The light's on the top right, the subject's on the bottom left, and the camera's underneath all that stuff. So the light comes in, bounces off the subject, and comes back to the camera. Then the camera makes its adjustments. So you can imagine if that blue ball was dark black, the camera probably would do, I better open up a little longer to make it gray. Or if it was white, oh my gosh, I better not take a long picture here, make it shut it down to make it gray. So you can see that what the lightness of the subject matter is going to affect your in-camera metering. So there's the average that it tries to make of all the light that's coming in. Let me show you that with some pictures. Oh, first of all, the handheld light meter. The handheld light meter, you have to hold it in front of the subject, and it measures light that's coming to the subject, and you nail it, because it doesn't matter whether it's white, black, or gray subject matter. The camera will do the right thing, and it'll turn it into this color gray. So therefore, the averaging of light is accurate, and it is the way professionals take light readings. So when I was doing this professionally, in the old days with film, I'd always had to take my handheld light meter and measure the light that's coming to the subject, and then I would set my camera to those settings. So let's take a look at some examples. In most situations, there's enough lightness and darkness to make an average, proper picture, like here on St. John's Point on a sunny day, or even here the sea lions on the bell chain on an overcast day. Essentially, it averages it to make it look gray. The meter ignores color. Now, you might not realize that. Rather, it just looks at lightness and darkness. So let me change these pictures into black and white. So here's this one black and white, and here's the next one black and white. And you can see if these were paints and you put them all into a bucket and mixed them up, they would come out gray. If the whole can was black and the other whole can was white, of course, then it would come out black or white. But so the camera anyway tries to make everything gray, and it will change the settings in your camera accordingly. And here's some example of that. If there's too much brightness, like snow, the camera will average the light, and the result is gray snow, because it's trying to make that scene average gray. And see I'll show you what happens when I shut down the iris a little bit, let a little less light in, and watch how it changes. We'll go back, show you one more example. That's normal. And there it is, but a little less light letting in, because the more light you let in, the darker the picture gets. So now the other way it works, if there's too much darkness, like people in tuxedos, and the camera will average the light, and it'll take the blacks gray. So here's another example. Here are the boys pre-graduation, and you can see how their black outfits are kind of almost gray, and their faces are overexposed because the camera thinks everything's supposed to be average gray. But then when I actually add on a little bit more exposure to let a little bit more light in to darken things, you can see I added a stop and a half, and the blacks are black. Interesting, eh? So often London Drugs will fix the problems when they print them, and you won't even know you have a problem here. But when you're printing at home, you got to fix this on your computer. So either on your camera while you're shooting, or afterwards on your computer. The best thing to do it is on your camera, so you don't lose information. Sometimes if the thing's too white or too dark, you just can't bring it back to an average. So how does averaging work? So here what I'm going to do is we'll put your camera, go home, if you're at home now, didn't come to class, put your camera on auto setting. And that could be program mode, would be fine. And take a separate picture of something white, something gray, and something black. What I did in class is I brought 3 shirts together to school. One was white, one was gray, one was black. And so I had everyone get really close and fill the frame with the shirt only of the color white or gray or black. And you know what happens? The camera will average the light, and the results will be like this. The gray will be gray, the white will be gray, and the black will be gray. Put this on stop right now and go try it. So cameras are not smart in certain situations. However, the in-camera light meter is weighted, usually weighted towards the middle of the frame to anticipate typical pictures. So you should look at your manual, see how your light meter averages. Sometimes it ignores the top and the bottom and the sides, and it just emphasizes the middle. But if in the middle everything's black or everything's white, you're going to have the same problem. Anyway, so if you haven't tried it, go try it. So make sure your camera's on auto, take the 3 pictures, and look at your results. Okay, having done that, now what I want to do is put your camera on manual mode. And you can see here the setting of manual is where the M is over here. You see where the M is? Put it on manual mode. And now take your camera and frame it on the gray shirt or the gray, whatever you got. I said a gray card here. Frame the gray card. And then what I want you to do is adjust your f-stop or your shutter speed, doesn't matter which one, so that the picture will be properly exposed. And usually you have a little guide like this. It'll be -1 or -2 or +1 or +2. You want to open up or close the iris. And don't worry about camera shake, that doesn't matter. Make sure your flash doesn't come on. And set your camera so that when you're pointing it right at the gray, everything is set to normal. Okay? Once you do that, I want you to take your 3 pictures again and look at your results. And you know what you're going to get? You're going to get black, white, and gray. So here's an application. When you're in a situation like the tricky situation, and this is in the tented area of the community center during a Sing Fest, the brightness of the background was going to affect the camera, and it would try to make that white gray, so it would shut down the iris or shut down the shutter to let less light in, and of course all these people would have been really dark. So when I put them on auto mode, you can do a special little thing. And what you can do is put your camera on auto, frame the picture typical of what you plan to take without the extraneous light source. So for example, if I just frame my camera on the bodies of the people and then set my camera, what I could do is note what the camera setting would be if it was on those people. So in other words, zoom in, maybe on the women on the left-hand side, and see what the setting would be on your camera. It'll be maybe f5.6 at a 60th of a second. And then what you want to do is put your camera on manual mode and put those settings in. So put it on manual mode and adjust your camera to be 5.6 at an 80th of a second. Now what you know is that your camera is not going to change the settings, and it'll take the pictures with these people being properly exposed. Now you can go around taking pictures as long as the lighting conditions stay the same, everything will work out just fine. And I always check my results from time to time to make sure something hasn't changed. The other thing you can do, we did this in class as well, is you can use fill flash. For example, here you could left your camera flash on the fill flash mode, and it would have lit the people nicely, though I still don't like flash very much in those situations. Or you can use a plus and minus setting on your camera. The plus and minus setting is, let's say, okay, for this picture, I want to underexpose it, i.e. -1 or -1.5. And that means your camera will take a normal setting, but then it will take less light based on your instructions by setting that little plus and minus thing. Or the other thing you can do is the AE lock. You can again focus on what is normal, what you want lit properly, push the AE button in, and then reframe your picture and take it, and your camera will be locked in and will take the exposure the way it should be. So the above picture, strong backlight would result in dark faces. I moved close and took a light reading. I put my camera on manual and took my pictures at that setting. I checked my shots from time to time, and everything worked out just fine. So when we did this in class, and we did a bunch of stuff, and we played with our light meters, and we measured inside light, outside light, and put it on manual, use fill flash. We had lots of fun learning how to take charge of your camera. If you missed that, I'd be happy to have a coffee and go over it with you if you give me a call. In the meantime, that's the end of this little program. Thanks.